Tutorial 3, model the chassis from a sketch. So if you're following this project through properly, you will have sketched your design on a grid like the one you see there. With the right tools, you'll use a pencil. You may have used a black fine liner pen. You will have labeled your diagram nicely, and you may have even used a compass to draw the circles for the wheels properly at the right size. So I've designed this initially for 32mm wheels. We'll see how that goes as we move along. So we're going to have our sketch, and once you've got your sketches ready, the best way to get them in is to start by scanning your sketch. You need to scan it so that it's perfectly as square as possible. So basically making sure that the grid is left to right across the page nicely and nice and horizontal and not slightly out of kilter. Otherwise your whole thing will be out of kilter. If you don't have a scanner, then take a photo of it, but be careful that you take your photo perfectly and directly above the page. Don't take it from any sort of angle. And as you've scanned your sketch, the next step will be to take your sketch into Fusion 360 and calibrate it for your canvas. So let's do that now. So we're in Fusion 360. We're going to start with a new design, and before we do anything else, we're going to save it. I have a project called Systems Engineering, which I'm putting it in. You can create new projects by bringing this out and pressing the new project button, but you can also just save it wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. You'll be able to find it later. So I'm just going to save it. Sorry, I just cancel, and I'm going to call my one balloon car from sketch. And I'm going to put the word tutorial or tut at the end so I know it's from the tutorial, and I'm going to hit save. So we're going to import a canvas, and that's on the insert button up here, and we're going to insert a canvas, and we're going to insert the canvas from my computer, and it is in a folder I've got called Systems, and it's the drawn design one here, and I'm going to click on open, and I'm going to put the canvas on this back plane here, like so. Now the canvas is very small at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on selectable, and I'm going to click on OK. That's all I should need. Now if I look at it from the right view, you can see that if I zoom up, I've got my canvas here. I'm going to right click on it now, and I'm going to choose calibrate. I'm going to click on the top left hand corner as close as there as I can. It doesn't really need to be totally perfect, but we'll go from there, and we're going to go to this point here as well, and that distance there we know is 120mm. Now it's going to be huge, so I'm going to zoom back out, and there it is. There's my canvas. That's the size that I'm going to draw in my things. I'm going to use that to trace over the top. Now that you've got the sketch into, or as the canvas into the background of your Fusion 360, it will be now time to make sure that you sketch around the outline. So let's do that now. It's now time to draw around or trace my item here. So it's really important to note that my spigot needs to be on a flat surface. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a sketch, and I'm going to draw it on this plane, and I'm going to draw my line, my straight line, where my spigot's going to go. And I'm going to make sure you can see that little blue icon that comes up there. That's a horizontal tool. It's going to be horizontally constrained, so it's going to be perfectly flat, and I'm going to draw it there. And then I'm going to go down to this little tick button and end that straight line. So that needs to be perfectly straight. No other line needs to be perfectly straight unless you want it to be. So now I'm going to use the spline tool, and I use the fit point spline. I'm going to start from this point here, and I'm going to click around on my lines like so, and just follow the general intent of my lines around until there. And then I'm going to press tick. That's now created a straight line, and you can see now I've got all these handle tools. I'm going to press the escape key. Just going to play with these ones until I get the line closer to what my intent was. So that's that one there. I'll click on this one here. I can also play with that one just a little bit. This one here is a little bit out too, so I'm going to click on this one over here and just play around until I'm really happy with the line matching the intent of my design. I might be happy with the fact that the lines have gone a little bit different, but I'm going to try and bring it as close as I possibly can to what was designed. So that is my design. I'm now going to finish that sketch, and I'm now going to extrude. I'll do this with the home button, so I'm going to press the home button while I'm doing this. I'm going to choose the direction of symmetric. I'm going to click on my shape, my spigot, no, sorry, not spigot shape, my chassis shape, and I'm going to bring it out 20 millimeters, which will bring it out a total of 40 millimeters. Type that in 20 properly. A total of 40 millimeters because it's symmetric. And there is my chassis. If I don't like the canvas, so I can just see what it looks like, that's what it's going to look like. So that is my shape of my design. I'm going to turn my canvas back on and bring the home button in, and that'll be ready for the next step. Once you've got your outline sketched and you've made a 3D shape out of it, you need to make sure that you can then put your holes for your axles into that shape so that you can push them through. That's a sketch on the outside, and that should be pretty straightforward. It's now time to put some axle holes in. Now if I go to my right view here and zoom up, I can see roughly where my axle holes need to go. I've actually drawn them into my diagram. Mine are on the same line, so I'm going to line them up perfectly, even though if I just try and eyeball it, it won't work. But if yours, for example, you've got a small wheel on the front and a bigger wheel on the back because you've got your O-rings to be that size, that's fine. You just eyeball it. But basically, I'm going to draw a sketch on that plane there. I'm going to zoom out over here and zoom in over here. Okay, and now I'm going to draw the sketch for this one out, and I'm going to type in 8 millimeters because I know it's 8, and then press enter. I'll draw the next sketch over here, just roughly put it in place, and press 8 millimeters and press enter. I'm then just going to use the horizontal and vertical tool. Click on that one. Don't click and drag, just click and then click on that one. That's going to align them. And the final thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure the distance between them. And the distance there is 70.12, so I'm just going to make it exactly 70. That's a number I can remember, and I'll use that number later. But 70 is a good number. If you don't want to change that, that's fine, but I'm going to make it so that it's exactly 70 apart. So now I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to look at it from the home view now, and I'm going to extrude that item there and that item there. Push it right through and press on OK. I now have, if I turn my design off, I now have, if I press the home button, 2 axle holes through my car chassis. Now, just like before when we modeled the basic one, we're going to model the pipe. It is exactly the same with a few minor differences towards the end. So please make sure that you pay attention to those minor differences at the end. In order to make sure that we can actually have that pipe going through properly. Okay, it's now time to put the pipe through. Because I did a symmetrical drawing here, I should be able to create a sketch on the middle plane. Now I can just see my middle plane and select it. If you can't select it, you can turn that body off and then select it and then turn the body back on again. I'm going to try and be a little bit different with this one, and I'm going to create a straight line down here, but I can't select anything off this object, so I'm just going to create it from here down to there. I'm also going to press the tick button, then I'm going to go across and create a straight line out about here to about here. So I'm going to try and line it up with that. I'm then going to bring in the spline tool and use the fit point spline to get there. So I'm not going to go straight. So I'm going to curve it round over here and then bring it down like that. Okay, that should be okay. Hopefully that's not too close to my axle. We'll see how that goes. You need to be away from your axle at least a little bit, but that line is definitely straight. Let's just make sure it is. So let's make sure, as you can see, that's vertical. That one there is definitely straight. It's going to say I've tried to press on the horizontal vertical tool and it won't let me because it's definitely straight. Okay, so we've got that line there. We've got a nice funny curve thing happening there. What I might do is just try and see if I can't press the tangent key and press that one and that one. That just lines that up nicely. And the tangent key and press this line here and that line there. That just lines that up nicely as well so that it comes in fully. And I might just press escape now, grab that one and just move it a touch up so it's a little bit further away from that axle. So I've got a funny sort of shape here. Probably not optimal, but it is lower down, and I'm sort of maybe playing with the idea that lower is better. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give away what I really think. I'm just making this up. So that's what I'm going with for my pipe. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to hit the finish sketch. And now I'm going to go and create a pipe. I can select that whole thing because it sticks out. Now it's important that it sticks out for this one. The reason being that if you don't have it sticking out either side on a curve thing here, it's not going to quite work through. So I'm going to select that line. I'm going to set my pipe section to be 5mm, and it's already inside, so this is turned on. So I'm just going to go cut straight away. And that has created my location for my thing. The spigot should fit there. It's not perfectly in the middle of that. I haven't lined it up with anything. I've just gone and done it a bit freehand. Before I go, I'm going to rename this body and I'm going to call it chassis, just so that we've got the chassis named. And that will be it for this one. On to the next step. It's now time to make the balloon spigot hole. This will only work really well if you have a flat surface on which to draw the spigot. So the spigot needs to sit on a flat surface. That's how it's designed. That is one limitation that you need to be clear on, that you actually have your spigot hole on a flat surface. Okay, before we can put on our hollow, we need to put in our spigot hole. Spigot hole is fairly simple. We just click up here for a new sketch. We're going to draw in a circle. We're going to lock it to the middle of that circle, and it is going to be 12. So we're going to type in 12 and press enter, and we're going to finish that sketch. Now what we are going to do is we're going to look at our right view now. Sorry, we're going to actually extrude it. Then we're going to look at our right view. We're going to change our style or visual style to wireframe, and then we're going to pull it down. Let's zoom in. We're going to pull it down. That straight line is going to be 6mm down. It's a bit longer, but we could just go to 6, and then we go cut and OK. So that's going to create that nice hole there. That will be perfect. 6mm is just enough. So I'm going to now finish that off by turning the wireframe back on. Not the wireframe, sorry. The shaded with visible edges on. And press the home button. And we can see that our spigot hole is there. And it should be functional. Let's go through step 8 now. We're going to hollow out our model. So to hollow out the model, we're going to press the shell key here. We're going to press on the side and we're going to select 2mm like so. And we're going to press on OK. So 2mm should work. If not, something will happen. The teacher will let you know. I don't know. That's just touching. That'll be fine. It's not going to go right through, which is great. And we're going to now just use the extrude tool. We're going to look in there a little bit more and select the back plane of that and just push it out those last 2mm and go OK. You'll see there's some lines there. That's fine. That's just because it's a more complex shape that it's got that line there. But that will be fine. You won't see that in the 3D print. So that's nicely hollowed out now. With some designs, you'll have a floating axle. That means that when you hollow out your part, you'll create a separate part for one of the axles. Let's figure out how to fix that if we need to. If you don't need to, then you can skip this step and fast forward through to the next step. If you look at this one here, this axle hole here is floating, and that's just not going to work for us. If we leave that floating, it's going to print for sure, but it'll basically fall out. It'll be a separate part. And the only way really to fix that is to actually just draw a sketch on this side here, like so. And I'm just going to use a couple of lines. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Oh, hang on. Before I do that, I'm going to go create, and I'm going to include project. I'm going to project that line there and that line there. Okay, now that I've got those lines included in the sketch, I can use those as reference points, so I can lock to this, move across, and lock to the edge of my line here, and do the same over here again. And I'm going to do this over here, like so, and I might do this from here to here, like so. That should be heaps. Now I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to look at this from the wrong angle, so I'm going to turn around this side. I'm going to then press on extrude that one there and that one there. I'm going to press on this other side so I can see the other side now, and I'm going to go to object. I'm just going to click on the face of the axle hole. No, I'll undo that one. I pressed the wrong thing. Let's press on the face of this there. Now it's going to bring it all the way through, and I'm going to press OK. It's joining to that, so that's just going to hold those in place. It's got a cool little hole there, which will probably fill up with crud, and you'll never see because the wheel will be over it anyway. But that's an interesting sort of design feature. Press the home button, and there we have it. We've got our thing joined in. Just going to quickly change the appearance now. I like to change the appearance of mine. I'm going to put in a plastic, and just to keep it in theme, I'm going to go to the opaque plastic. There it is there. Just to keep it in theme with everything else, it's just going to go a glossy red, because red goes faster. Hit close, and there we go. Finally, it's time to do a bit of 3D printing refinement so that the 3D print can actually print properly without any errors. So we need to add in a few extra features in order to make that happen, in the form of temporary scaffolds that can be broken away. Okay, so we need to actually make it so that we can now 3D print it. I'm going to go across to this side this time, and then I'm going to have a look up underneath it. So I'm going to press on this bottom one, and the first thing I'm going to do, just to make the 3D printing a little bit nicer and easier, is I'm going to put a bit of a fillet on that that join there, just to make that fill out the space nicely. And I'll just print a little bit easier if I do that. The next thing I need to do is I need to draw out a whole bunch of little supports along the length of this tube. That's fairly easy to do. So I'm going to create a sketch now. I'm going to create it on the outside line or face of this one here. And I'm going to zoom up here, and I'm going to draw, probably actually, this could be tricky. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to come in and find the sketch where I drew. That's the one. So you can see if you hover over it, you get that line there, that line appearing up. That sketch there, I'm going to liven that up. And I'm going to press P to project. Otherwise go create, create, project, project like that. And I'm going to project that line going through. So I might turn that body off just to make it easier. I'm going to project this line going through here. I'm going to go OK. Now that I've got that line as a reference point, I can draw a circle on that line, just here. And I'm going to make it 3mm. And I'm going to turn that body back on and making sure it's not touching this wall here. Now that should be fine. I might actually press on this one here and just drag it a little bit that way, so it's well away from that wall. And that I'm going to finish the sketch. Now that I've finished that sketch, I'm going to press on this button here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to zoom out a bit and zoom in a bit over here. I'm going to extrude both sides of that circle. There's two sides of that circle now. But I'm going to extrude it through so I can see that one there to an object, and that object is going to be the pipe. And it's saying there's an error, can't complete the extrusion. Probably because my pipe is a bit complicated. Pipe's not touching. So I'm going to go to that pipe there, not the other one. And I'm going to go to new body, like so. And I'm going to press on OK. So that should be grey. If it came up as red, that's not going to work. So let's just press the home button and then come back around the other side so I can see that now. Now I need to move those along that, or duplicate those along that line. So I'm going to create a pattern tool and the pattern on path. I'm going to select this as the object, and then I'm going to select that sketch as the path. To do that, I'm going to need to turn that body off and click on path up here. Select this and then move it along, all the way along. Then I'm going to look at it from the left side, turn the body back on again, the chassis back on again. I don't want it to come up into that flange there, so just bring it below that flange there, like so. And let's add some numbers now. So I reckon that's heaps. So we're going to go like that. We're going to change the direction to no, we're going to change the orientation, sorry, to path direction. That's just a little extra touch that we can put in, and we're going to press on OK. That's now created a whole bunch of little stands for it to stand up on while we're 3D printing it. So that's now ready for 3D printing. I'm going to turn that last sketch off. So that's turned off. There should never be sketches turned on if you can help it. And I probably should have labeled that body before I did this. I gave it a name. I could probably go back and do that. I won't right now, but that's pretty good. I've just realized that the spigot has no thread. The spigot hole has no thread. So let's actually do that. I forgot that. So let's actually put that in. So I'm going to pause. And here I am in Fusion 360. And I'm going to just put that thread into the spigot hole. Make sure it is modeled. And press on OK. So now I have that shape nicely modeled up. And it's all good to go. That is actually ready as a balloon thing. We can test it. We can see how that goes. See how the air copes with that extra bit of tubing. It is a little bit of a different one, isn't it?